Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Strat-O-Matic University, class number 2. It's been a long time since class number 1 with the base running. This is class number 2. It is on super advanced fielding. So I'm going to attempt to explain everything that needs to be done in super advanced fielding to get that down, and try to give a lot of examples. And at the end, I will give a little cheat sheet that you can pause the video on and uh, maybe make some notes of your own if you like, and hopefully that will help you. This video is designed primarily for people who play the advanced game and are looking to go up one more notch to super advanced, but maybe feel a little bit intimidated by certain things like the base stealing, like the fielding, things of that nature. So we did the one for the uh, base running. Now this one is for the fielding. So we're going to have two batters that are going to help us with the presentation: a left-handed batter, Billy Williams, and a right-handed batter, Ron Santo. We're going to have fielders, two infielders, a catcher, and an outfielder. The two infielders are going to be Bobby Wine and Cookie Rojas. And you guessed it, I did that, or chose them because now we can have the days of Wine and Rojas. So that's why I chose them. For the other players, other participants, I wanted an outfielder defensive play. So we've got Roberto Clemente. He's going to represent our outfielders. And Randy Hundley is going to represent catchers. So I really wanted to be in that area. Maybe there's too much light here. Let's see. Let's dim some of these lights a little bit. Don't want to be so bright here. So we're going to have a catcher, outfielder, two infielders, and we're going to a right-handed batter and a left-handed batter. So that's what I'm going for. We also have the textbook, because when you're in any class, you have to have a textbook. And so the textbook's going to start on page 6. Page 6, and we're going to be in section 16.3. So if you want to collect your textbook and open it up to those pages, we can get started. And my goal is to go very methodically, possibly too methodically for a lot of people, but I think it's better to go slower for the people who need to see it slower, and have the people who don't need to see it slower maybe be a little irritated, than to go too fast and the people who need to see it slower get frustrated and give up. So we don't want that to happen. Also have the defensive, super advanced defensive sheets, one for the infielders and one for the pitcher and catcher. And then on the flip side of the infielders, we have the outfielders. But we're going to start with the infielders. So we will start with the infielders. And of course, our two infielders in question are Cookie Rojas and Bobby Wine, shortstop and a second baseman. All right, now the biggest difference defensively on the defensive checks between advanced and super advanced is that in advanced, you're checking either range or the error rating. But in super advanced, you check both. So the D20 is going to check the range of the fielder in question. The three D6s are going to be added up, and that's going to check the error rating of the fielder in question to see if he commits the error. Okay, so let's get our batter up at the plate. We got Billy Williams at the plate, and we're going to say Billy Williams comes to the plate, but the pitcher, it's on the pitcher card because all X chances are on the pitcher card. So it's going to be a ground ball shortstop X to the, I'm sorry, it's be a ground ball second base X. We'll make it Cookie Rojas. Why not? Ground ball second base X. In this example, no one is on base. The bases are completely empty. And Billy Williams is at a ground ball to second base X on the pitcher card. All right, first thing we're going to do is look at Cookie Rojas's card. Let's get a close-up of Cookie Rojas right here. Cookie Rojas, the position he's playing, second base, there's a number right behind it, and that is his range factor. Then right behind that is his error rating. So we're going to do 2 checks in one. First check is going to be the range check to see if he actually gets to the ball or not, or whether the ball gets past him for a hit. And the second check is going to be whether he makes an error in either trying to get to the ball or after he's already gotten to the ball. So that is where the X chart comes in. So we come over here on X chart, and Cookie Rojas is a 2. So what you do is come over to the range section, and we're going to look at the column number 2 because that's what Cookie Rojas is rated. He's rated 2. So we look at this column, and the column goes 1 to 20, which corresponds to the D20. We're going to roll a D20 and see how it falls into play. It's a 13. 13 on a 2 is a G1, so he's going to get to it. Now we have to determine if he makes an error. His error, go to second base, his error number is an 18. So we come down to E rating 18, and there's numbers across from that in this row. And these are the numbers of 3 D6s added together, 13, 3, and 18. So if you roll 3 D6s, add them up, and get a 13, it'll be a 1-base error. If we roll them and add them up and get either a 3 or an 18, it'll be a 2-base error. All range plays or all error plays or X chances on Super Advanced, if you roll a 5, it's always a rare play. That doesn't change for anything. So we're going to roll the 3 D6s, add them up, and we get, lo and behold, we get a 13. Well, guess what? Cookie Rojas just made an error. So we go over to our symbols chart, which is to the far right, under G1, because that's what we had was a G1. And it says there was an error, it was an E1. So we come over here, it says error, batter to first, runners advance 1 base, and that's what happens. In this case, nobody was on base, so Cookie Rojas just takes, or not Cookie Rojas, but Billy Williams will take first base on the play. All right, so we have Cookie Rojas at first base. I'm sorry, we have Billy Williams at first base. I keep getting them confused. We have Billy Williams at first base, and we have Ron Santo coming up to bat. Ron Santo is the batter, and Ron Santo, I probably shouldn't have used Billy Williams. I probably should have used a faster runner, but we'll just go ahead and keep it in this instance here. We're going to say, for whatever reason, that the pitching team wants to hold Billy Williams on first base. So they're going to hold him on, and that's important, whether they're holding or not holding. But in our example, we're going to hold him on. All right. Ron Santo is the batter. And we get a ground ball second base X on the pitcher card. Well, that's going to determine Cookie Rojas. So once again, we're looking at Cookie Rojas. They're holding Billy Williams on. And Ron Santo is a right-handed batter. So we come over to this super advanced hold running chart with a runner on first, which is Billy Williams, and a right-handed batter, which is Ron Santo. The first baseman and the second baseman are responsible for holding the runners. What does that mean? It means 2 things. One, their range will go up by 1, means it gets worse by 1, meaning the number gets higher by 1, because their range is cut down by having to check the runner. So Cookie Rojas now becomes a 3. The other thing it does is it brings these pound signs into play on the super advanced chart. If we get a pound sign on the range check for Rojas, if it comes up as a pound, because in this case he'd be a 3, so if we rolled a 5, 6, 7, or 8 on the D20, that would be a G3 pound, but the pound sign would turn into a single 2 stars. So it would not be a G3 where the runner's out at first and Billy Williams would advance. Instead, it would be a single 2 stars. Billy Williams would go to third. Ron Santo would take first. Now let's flip it around and say it was a ground ball shortstop X, not to second base X. And again, I'd roll the error chances again off of his E18, just like we did before. That doesn't change. Now let's say it's a ground ball shortstop X to Bobby Wine. Well, Santo's a righty, so the shortstop is not responsible for holding him. He's responsible for holding the left-handed batter. So the shortstop, in this case, Bobby Wine, will keep his number, which is 3E44. So he would keep that 3. So we would roll the D20 with 3 in mind, and we look at this 3 column. Even if he gets a pound sign, it's irrelevant because he's not holding the runner. So we roll this, we get an 18. All right, a 3 and an 18 is a G1. That means it's a possible double play. So now we go to his error rating. It's an E44. So we come over to shortstop error rating, E44, and we look at what we've got. We've got 4 numbers here, 8, 13, 16, and 18. If he rolls an 8 or a 13 on the 3D6s, it's a 1-base error. If you roll a 16 or 18, it's a 2-base error. If you roll anything other than that, it's just going to be a double play. So in this case, we rolled a 15. Well, on the E44, if there is no 15, there's a 16, but no 15. So in this case, it's just a G1, and we come over to G1, no error. So we come down to this chart right here, go to the base running situation, which is runner on first. The infield was normal, the infield was not in. That means it's a DP43. DP43. So that means it's going to go a double play, and it's either going to be, well, in this case, it'd be a 6-4-3 because it went to the shortstop. It'd be a 6-4-3 double play. And over here it says batter is out, run on first is out, double play, other runners advance 1 base. So if somebody had been on second, say, they would, and they were forced to run on first and second, it would be a 6-4-3 double play. Run on first out, batter out, run on second would go to third. All right. Now, let's say we have Santo on base and Billy Williams is batting, and it's a ground ball shortstop X. All right. Ground ball shortstop X, Billy Williams is a left-handed batter. Over here, with Santo at first, left-handed batter, first baseman, and shortstop do the holding. First base and shortstop. Oh, I don't have it on. That's why I don't see it. I didn't put it over far enough, did I? First base and shortstop do the holding right here. So that means Bobby Wine is responsible, which means his number goes up by 1, becomes a 4. So we get a 4E44. So we're going to be in the 4 range right here on this chart. Going to roll, get an 8. An 8 is a G3 pound. Well, as we've seen before, the pound turns into a single 2 stars. So not only do you get the, I guess, ding of going up by 1, but then you also are subject to the pounds. So let's say, for instance, it would have been a 9. Let's make it a 9. Let's make it a 10. How about a 10? All right, let's make it a 10. If the roll had been a 10 and we didn't have, and he did not hold the runner, he'd be a 3. It would be a G2. But since he's holding the runner, he bumps up to a 4, and that makes this a G3 pound. So not only does it change from a G2 to a G3, but now it's a pound, so we get a single 2 stars. Santo goes to third, Williams goes to first. So that's kind of how that works with the holding the runners and the pound signs and whatnot. You're always going to check here first. And if nobody's on base, you don't even worry about the pounds. But I'm just talking about people on base. But to go back to the very beginning, the D20 will tell you to look at the range of the fielder, check that column, roll a D20, and it gives you a code. And then you take that code over to the symbols chart and figure out what happens. And then you also look at their error rating under the shortstop range. If you're Wine, go to 44, roll the 3D6s, add them up, and see if you get an 8, 13, 16, or 18. So that's the example there. All right, now let's move it on over to the outfielders. And we will put, because this is going to include some base running as well. So Billy Williams is at first base. Ron Santo is your batter. Right fielder is Roberto Clemente. So Ron Santos singles to right field. Well, first of all, let's do it with an X check first. Then we'll do the base running after that. So we flip this chart over, get to our outfielders, and it's the same kind of chart as the infielders. You have the same 1 through 5, and then 1 through 20 for the D20. So Clemente is a right fielder. We look at his card. He's a range of 1. That does not change. Range of 1 does not change. He's an E6. So we come over here to E6, and these are the possible error chances for Roberto Clemente. A 3 or 4 on the 3D6s is a 1 base error. A 14 to 17 is a 2 base error, and an 18 is a 3 base error. And again, the 5 is a rare play. So let's say, for instance, it is a right fielder X. Well, Billy Williams is up with bases empty. How about that? And he rolls a right fielder X on his result. So the first thing we're going to do is roll the D20. We get an 8. So we come over here to number 1, and number 1 says F2. So that's the code we're going to use is F2. And these codes will tell you if runners advance if they're on base. Let's go ahead and put Santo at second base. Make it interesting. Let's put Santo at second base. So Santo's at second base. Williams is batting. It's an F2 because that's a 1 and that's an 8, and it came up to F2. Now we go to Clemente's error rate to see if he commits an error. We know he gets to it, but we're going to see if he drops it or does whatever. So he's a 6. So that means a 3, 4, 14, 17, or 18 will produce an error. Add up the 3D6s, and we get a 15. There is no 15 here, so that means the F2 is good. There was no error on the play. So what does F2 mean? Well, we come over here to our chart on the F2. F2, there was no error. It says fly out. If there's a runner on third, he scores. So an F2 is like in advanced a fly ball B. It's going to be a sacrifice fly. A runner on second may tag up and try to advance, and you compute his safe chances as running speed plus outfielder's arm. All right. Now, if Ron Santo wanted to try to advance from second to third, we're going to take his running speed, and we're going to add it. We're going to add it to the outfielder arm. Well, Roberto Clemente is a -5 arm. Not many people run on him. But if Santo wanted to be silly and do it, you got 11 minus 5 for a 6. So that means on a D20, we'd have to roll a 1 through 6 for Santo to be safe. Any other result, and he would be out. So he's going to be out trying to go to third base. So obviously that would not be a smart play. All right, so now let's look at let's see. Okay, now let's do it without the X chart. Let's do the base running portion of it since we have these players in play. Ron Santo is at first. Roberto Clemente is in right field. And Billy Williams just hit a single to right field. And the single does not have an asterisk behind it. So on Billy Williams' card, his single to right field would look something like the 12 right here. There's 312. 312 is a single to right field. So it's a single to Clemente, but there's no asterisk, so you don't know how many stars Santo would get. By default, he would just get the one base, and that would do it. But he has the opportunity, because there's no asterisk there, to stretch, to go to third. But he does so at his own risk. Roberto Clemente is a -5. Ron Santo is an 11. We're going to say since he's slow, he was not held, so it would make him a 12. He gets one extra point because he's not held. It's 12. We're going to say it's only 1 out, not 2 outs, so you don't get the extra boost there. However, to go from right field to a throw to third base, because the throw is so long, you add 2 to the base running result. So in this case, it would be a 1 to 14 because you add 1 for not being held, and then the +2 on the throw would be a 1 to 14. But then you take the -5 Clemente, make it a 1 to 9. So you roll and see if he can get it there. He does. 9, he would be safe at third base. So that's how the base running would work there on base hits. All right, now let's go to catcher X. Let's move this out of the way. So we'll bring our catcher into play, Randy Hundley. And we're going to say Clemente is the batter this time. So Hundley's catching and Clemente is the batter. And we're going to say Cookie Rojas is a runner on first. All right. We roll a catcher X. Catcher X. So we come over to the catcher. Come over to our catcher X chart, which is right here. And we look at Hundley. Hundley is a rating of 1 with an E3. So we're going to use the range section here. The error section is here. So range section, this bottom portion, is the catcher. He's a 1. So we're going to roll the D20 and see what happens on this particular result. It is a 18. I know it went out of focus throughout the camera there, but it's an 18. So he rolls an 18. So we roll an 18. Oops. We roll an 18. And we come to the 1. That's a G2. That's going to be a ground ball to the catcher with the play going to first base. Actually, with the runner on first, that would be a G2 is a force play, so they throw to second to get Rojas out. But there could be an error. Hundley's an E3, so we come over to catcher error rating and 3. And the numbers beside 3 are 3, 16, and 18. So we roll these 3, and we get a 8. So that means there's no error on the play. It's a G2 for the catcher. G2. Runner was on first. Infield was normal, so it says force. So we come over to the results play here under force. Says batter is safe, run on first, out, going to second. Other runs advance 1 base. So that's what would happen there on the catcher X. Now, another part of the catcher X is pass balls, wild pitches, that sort of thing. So let's have the bat again. Same at bat. Clemente's at the plate. Rojas, he's hiding down here, but Rojas is on first. Clemente at the plate. Rojas is at first. Hundley is catching. We had a catcher X. He's a 1. And we roll a 3. I have to manufacture because I probably can't roll a 3 on demand. So he's a 3. That's a W/G. Let's not roll a 3. Let's do this. Is a 6. We'll roll a 7. I like lucky 7. We'll do lucky 7. It's a lucky 7, so that's a P/F. P/F. We're still going to roll for the error rating. E3 still has to avoid those numbers there, which he does because 7's not listed. So, but we do have a P/F. So we come over here. P/F. P/F. And we're under the no. It says with runners on base, a pitch gets past the catcher for a pass ball. All runners advance 1 base and the play resumes with the same player at the plate. Now, a lot of people like to stop right there. What I like to do is go into where these notes are. When you're using the super advanced havoc roll that I call it, where you're checking for balks, wild pitches, and things like that, pass balls, then we use the super advanced rules to determine if a pass ball has occurred. And basically what you're doing there is you look at the wild pitch rating of the pitcher. We re-roll the D20 to see if it falls in his wild pitch rating. If it does, then a pass ball has occurred. If it doesn't, there's no pass ball. And if there's no pass ball, it says down here, if a pass ball does not occur, the batter hits a foul out to the catcher. So that's only if you're doing this. If you're not looking at the part in bold, then it's going to be a pass ball all the time, and you don't worry about this. But if you're using the wild pitch rating of the pitcher to determine if a pass ball occurs, then you come down here. I know that's a little bit confusing um, for a catcher, but hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Again, we had the P/F, so it says runners on base. With runners on base, it gets past the catcher for a pass ball. But if you want to do, and you can stop right there, and that'd be perfectly fine. But if you want to add a little extra, you want to incorporate the wild pitch rating of the pitcher to see if that affects the pass ball rating of the catcher. Does a pitcher that throws a lot of wild pitches, does that impact the probability of a pass ball by the catcher? If you think it does, then you can go to the wild pitch rating, roll your D20, get a yay or a nay. And if it's a nay, then it's just a foul out to the catcher and the at bat is over. All right. Let's see. So I think that kind of covers most of what I wanted to cover with the defense. Like I said, most of it's going to be right here in this textbook, primarily starting on page 6, 16.3. It's also going to be some other areas as well. Let me hit a couple of other areas that aren't on the X chart but are in the book. And that is this idea of a plus sign. The plus sign. So let's look at Cookie Rojas. He's got a ground ball shortstop A plus. Well, if the infield is in, that's going to turn into a base hit with 2 stars. It will not be a ground out if the infield is in. It is not affected by the infielder being held. In super advanced, that is not affected because the asterisks on the X chart take care of that. So let's look at the rule itself right here, 17.2. Or actually 17.12 and 17.13. It says convert ground ball pluses to single star only when the infield is all the way in. When the team is in the field is playing only corners in, do not award a single on that result. Instead, treat it as a ground ball without that. All right. Also in 17.1.3, do not award a single star on a ground ball plus while runners are being held on base. There we go. That's what I was just talking about. So the plus sign is only if the infield is all the way in. If the infield is all the way in, this turns to a single 2 stars. If the infield is not in, then you just roll your ground ball shortstop A as normal. Now let's look at low maxes. Low maxes, line out maxes. In super advanced, when this result occurs in a situation where a triple play could occur, the result is not an automatic triple play like it is in advanced or basic. Instead, roll the 20-sided die. If we roll a 1 to 7, like we just did here, it's a line out triple play. If we roll the 8 through 20, it's a line out double play with the lead runner doubled off. So suppose you had runners on first and second, and the line drive went to first base. It was a line drive first base max, low max to first base. Actually, I think the low maxes only go to second short. So let's say we had runners on the corners, first and third. First and third with 1 out. First and third, 1 out. And you get a low max line out second base max. All right. Actually, there's nobody out. So you got a line out second base max, nobody out, runners on the corners. Well, would it be a triple play? It would be if we roll a 1 to 7, it would be a triple play. If we roll an 8 or higher, then the second baseman would throw out the lead runner at third base, not the runner at first, which logically you think you throw it to first because it's closer, but this says lead runner. So that means the second baseman would catch it and throw the runner on third out. So you'd have the batter out, runner on third out, 2 outs, runner at first base. So it's always the lead runner, not the closest runner to the base, to the fielder that catches the ball. All right. So as a recap, got a little cheat sheet going here. So once again, a ground ball with a plus sign, only a single star if the infield is all the way in. No single awarded on a ground ball plus when runners are being held. All right. If the X chart result is a G2 pound or a G3 pound, turn it to an SI2 when fielder responsible for holding runners or the infield is in all the way. So again, if a left-handed hitter, shortstop's responsible, you get a shortstop X on a G2 pound, then it turns to SI2. On the Lomax, triple play on the D20 roll of 1 to 7. 8 to 20 is a double play with the lead runner being doubled off. All right, now some extra things to talk about. Outfield in. If you're in a pinch and you've got the winning run at third base with only one out and a sacrifice fly ends the game, you're going to play the outfield in. So normally when you have a fly ball B question mark, you would add 2 to the runner's rating to see if he scores. With the outfield in, you actually subtract 7 from the runner's speed instead of adding the 2. So that's a 9-point difference. You go from -7 to +2. So that definitely is going to maybe curtail that runner from trying to score. However, with the outfield in, if you roll a fly ball A or a fly ball B without the question mark, it changes to a single and the runner on third would score. And then again, left-handed hitter, first and shortstop hold the runners. Right-handed hitter, first and second hold the runners. A runner advancement on a hit from first to third. If it's hit to right field, you add 2 because the throw is coming from right field all the way to third base. If it's a base hit to left field and the guy's trying to go to third, you subtract 2 because that throw from left field to third base is so short. So that's a little cheat sheet that I came up with. So if you want to analyze that or look at it or whatever. But that's basically the fielding, how it works. So let's go through a real world example real quick just to see it in action without all the explanation. We're going to have Billy Williams, the batter, Ron Santos at first, and Cookie Rojas and Bobby Wine are your fielders. Wine and Rojas are your fielders, with Santo at first. I know my space isn't big enough to have these cards there, but whatever. All right, so Billy Williams, a left-handed hitter, is up with Santo at first and one out. Santo is despite the fact he's got an E. In fact, you know what? Let's make well, I don't really have anybody that's got any speed. Let's keep Santo here. But he's going to be held. For whatever reason, they decide to hold him. So we're going to say Santo is being held. Billy Williams is batting a lefty, so that means Bobby Wine is responsible for holding the runner. We get a ground ball shortstop X. What's the first thing we do? Well, we look at Bobby Wine's rating. His rating for his range is a 3, but not so fast. He's responsible for holding Santo because of the left-handed batter, so that changes to a 4. So we're going to roll the D20, and we get a 9. So we go to the chart for defense. We go to our X chart, and he's a 4 now. So a 4 and a 9, that's what we roll, turns to a G3 pound. Since he's responsible, that pound is going to turn to an SI2. So in this case, Santo would take third, Williams would take first, but that's only part 1. Part 2 is we've got to check for an error. He's an E44. So we come over to E44 for the shortstop right here. 8, 13, 16, and 18 are the numbers we have to avoid. And we get a 11. So E44, there is no 11, so there's no error, thank goodness. But in this case, because he was holding the runner, that pound sign turns to an SI2. Santos at third, Williams is at first, and the next batter is up. So hopefully those examples, I think I ended up going too fast, but hopefully I didn't. You can always rewind this and watch it again and again and again if you had to. But hopefully that's an explanation that's sufficient to understand. And like I said, I got this cheat sheet here if you want to take a look at it. And if you think I need to add something, you can put it in the comments if you think I need to add something to the cheat sheet, or if there's something I missed that I didn't go over that I should have went over, you can let me know and I'll try to address it at a different video. But I think I as far as I can tell, I think I've hit the major high points on fielding. One last thing I want to do for fielding that I didn't think about doing, but I think needs to be done, is a sacrifice bunt. So let's say Ron Santo is the third baseman, and Bobby Wine is up to bunt. They're expecting the bunt. So we look at the bunt rating for Bobby Wine, it's a B. But with the corners in, he goes to a C bunt. So what we do there at that point is we roll the white die, because the white die is going to tell us which fielder fields the ball. So that's a 1. So 1 says it goes to the pitcher. So the pitcher is going to field the ball. Now, is it a good bunt or not? Well, it's a C bunter. So we go to this column here, roll the 2d6s, and get the corresponding information. We roll a 6. So under C and a 6, we get defense. All right, we get defense. This is where it can get a little tricky. The batter drops down a bunt, and the defense has the option of throwing the batter out at first or trying for the lead runner. All right, we'll say in this case the lead runner is Billy Williams. Williams is a runner at first base, Billy Williams. His speed is a 14. So it says compute the lead runner safe range as running speed -4. So Billy Williams is a 14. We take -4 for a 10. Plus the fielder's defensive rating. Santo's a 1, so that gives him a total of 11. So we get 14 minus the 4 plus the fielder rating gives him an 11. All right. And the max safe range is 1 to 19. For example, the lead runner's rating is a 1 to 14. The ball is thrown to the first baseman. His fielding rating is a 2. The lead runner's safe range is 1 to 12. In our case, it's 1 to an 11. So if you're on defense and you think Santo can get the lead runner, Billy Williams, at second base, you can try to roll for it. If you roll a 1 to 11, Billy Williams is safe. If you roll a 12 or higher, then he's going to be out. So in this case, it's an 18, which means Ron Santo just threw Billy Williams out. It was a failed sacrifice bunt, and that's that. So you have defense, you have sacrifice, you have speed. Speed means the batter lays down sacrifice, but he's so fast, it was such a good bunt, he could possibly beat it out. That's what that's for. The 1 and 2 means it's 1 ball and 2 strikes. It says pitcher throws a ball, and then the batter fouls off 2 pitches trying to bunt. Offensive manager must decide whether or not to take off the bunt. If he stays with the bunt and this reading occurs again, the batter is out on a strikeout. So that would say he would bunt the 3rd strike, and that would be the end of that. So I think now that kind of covers what I wanted to cover. Don't want to get into the hit and run. That's going into the weeds. So I don't want to do that in this video. So hopefully that we're at about 38 minutes or so. So hopefully that's a down and dirty example of all the defensive checks you would go through, when you would go through them, why you would go through them, and how to proceed to resolve the play. So I do appreciate you spending time watching this. I hope it treats you well. I hope you got something out of this. And if you, like I said, leave something in the comments if you want to get a better explanation of something more detailed, or if you think I forgot something, let me know that as well, so I can, maybe in a future video talk about it. But that's going to do it from here. So again, want you all to have a good evening or afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Be blessed, and hopefully you were able to get some use out of this video. So until next time, enjoy playing whatever game you choose to play, however you choose to play it, and I will see you all down the road.